Hello students, you're welcome to today's class. My name is Adebanke and I'll be taking you through IGCSE Biology Questions. Question 1. What are characteristics of all organisms? So we all know characteristics of organism, the acronym with Mr. Niger movement, respiration, nutrition, irritability, growth, excretion, reproduction, and death. So looking at these options, we have option A, ejection and excretion. Option B, ejection and nutrition. C, excretion and nutrition. D, excretion and photosynthesis. So from the acronym, we can deduce that excretion and nutrition, option C is the correct answer. But it's still a bit tricky. You want to say, what about excretion and photosynthesis? Photosynthesis is also nutrition, but the question, you have to understand the question well. It says for all organisms. Photosynthesis is only limited to plants. So that's why option C is the correct answer to this question. Question 2. The scientific name for the golden eagle is Aquila chrysaetos. So D is the scientific name for eagle. So the question is asking, what is the genus of the golden eagle? The scientific name, we have the genus and the species. So the genus is the first name. So from this question, the scientific name for golden eagle is Aquila chrysaetos. So the genus here is Aquila, option A. Next question, question 3. Which row shows structures that are present in both root hair cells and palisade mesophyll cells? For root cells, they store food, and for mesophyll, so is family found in plants. They produce and also store. No, they don't store, they only produce food. So from this table here, we are to match the ones that are present in both of these cells. So looking at it, cell wall, chloroplast, cytoplasm, and vacuole, are they present in root hair cells and mesophyll cells? So from these options listed, it's only chloroplast that is not present in root hair cells. Why? Because chloroplast is found in leaves, and leaves have mesophyll cells, so it's involved in photosynthesis. That's why chloroplast is only present in mesophyll cells. But the question is asking the ones that are present in both cells. So that's why chloroplast does not apply to this question. So the answer is C. Cell wall, cytoplasm, and vacuole are present in both cells. Option C. Question 4. The photomicrograph shows a plant cell. This is a plant cell shown in this picture. The length of the line is XY. So the length here is, this XY is 90 millimeter. So the actual length of the cell is 30 micrometer. So the question is asking, what is the magnification of the photomicrograph? So to calculate the magnification, that's the length all over the actual length. Sorry, actual, yeah, all over the actual length. So given, we have the length to be 90 millimeter. These values are given, the length to be 90 millimeter, and we have the actual length AL to be 30 micrometer. So we are to divide 90 millimeter by 30 micrometer. And you see that the units are not uniform. So we need to convert these to micrometer so that we can have a uniform unit. So the 90, to convert millimeter to micrometer, you multiply by 1000. So we have 90 times 1000. This will give you a micrometer, all over 30 micrometer. So we can see that the unit is uniform now. So we do our division. This will go, then 3 here, 3 and 9 will give us 3. So 3 times 1000 micrometer, we cancel micrometer. So 3 times 1000 will give 3000. So the answer is 3000. So from the option here, what is the magnification of the micrograph? So the answer we got from our calculation is 3000. That is option B. Next question. The diagram shows an experiment demonstrating osmosis. That's osmosis is movement of water molecules from the region of lower concentration to the region of higher concentration through a semi-permeable membrane. So this experiment is showing the use of dialysis tubing bag inside water. And inside the dialysis tubing bag, we have sugar solution. So what is the question that is being asked? We say after 30 minutes, the level of the liquid in the glass tube goes, we don't know. Is it going up or down? We don't know. But because the water had a dash water potential than the sugar solution, so which words correctly complete the statement? So from the experiments, which one correctly completes the statement? We see the sugar solution inside there, the water inside there. So the experiments, let's look at the question. Move to the question. So the level of liquid in the glass tube will go up. Why? Because the water had a um, higher potential than the sugar solution. Why is it so? The water outside has a higher potential of what is inside. So that's why the liquid in the liquid gas, in the liquid tube, will go up, because the water outside has a higher water potential than the water inside. That's the sugar solution. So that's from here we can deduce that option D is the correct answer. So it goes up and higher. Option D is the correct answer. The next question, question 6. This diagram shows the movement of glucose molecules across a cell membrane. This is cell membrane. You see they have two layers, the hydrophilic layer and the hydrophilic layer. So it's selectively permeable membrane. So the movement of glucose molecule into the cell membrane. So which statement describe molecule T from the diagram? Which statement describe this molecule T? So the glucose here, what statement, since it's moving across a semi-permeable membrane, which statement describe this T here? Because this glucose is moving across a concentration gradient. We can see it's moving from low concentration to high concentration. So let's look at the options that are provided. You see, it is a fat molecule used to transport glucose down a concentration gradient. It is a fat molecule B used to transport glucose against a concentration gradient. It is a protein molecule used to transport glucose down a concentration gradient. It is a protein molecule used to transport glucose against a concentration gradient. So let's look, we've mastered these options that are provided. So let's look at the diagram again to see which answers the question correctly. This is T, the glucose is moving across this against this concentration gradient, and we see it's from low concentration to high concentration. That's osmosis is taking place here. No, that's yes, active transport. Sorry, active transport is taking place here. That's from low concentration to high concentration, and this is done by protein molecules. So it is a protein molecule that moves this glucose against a concentration gradient. That's the active transport that is taking place here. So from the options provided, we can see that option D is the correct answer. It is a protein molecule that is used to transport glucose against a concentration gradient. So option D is the right answer. The next question. The diagram shows part of a protein molecule. This is a protein molecule, and you see these protein molecules, they have small units. These are the small units, right? They are connected together by a bond. This bond is known as a peptide bond. It's used for connecting simple units of protein. For sugar, for let's say starch, is a complex molecule. The simple unit is known as glucose. But for protein molecule, the simple unit is known as amino acid. So these are chains of amino acid that are connected by peptide bond to form a complex molecule known as protein. So the question, looking at the question, it says, what does X represent? This X represents is just one unit of this protein molecule. And I've explained earlier that amino acid are smaller units of protein molecules. So from these options that are provided here, we can see amino acid is tally with option A. So option A, amino acid, is X that is represented here. The next question. The structure of DNA involves two strands coiled together. So they are trying to remind us of what the structure of DNA, the oxyribonucleic acid, is consists of two strands that are coiled together like this, like this. So it's just something like this. Yeah, something like this. And in the two strands, we have ladder in between. So we have ladder in between, and this ladder consists of base pairs. So the base pairs, we have four nitrogenous base pairs. We have adenine represented as A. We have thymine represented as T. We have cytosine represented as T. And we have guanine represented as G. So that is it. For amino acid, for RNA rather, we have uracil. But in DNA, these are what the nitrogenous bases looks like. So for the question says, which pairing of bases between these two strands is correct? So these bases here, they are paired. So this is how they are paired. We have adenine represented as A pairs with thymine, and guanine represented as G pairs with cytosine. So cytosine, this is cytosine, sorry. This is cytosine. So A adenine pairs with thymine, guanine pairs with cytosine. But for RNA, guanine pairs with uracil. But the focus here is the structure of DNA. So which pairing of bases between these two strands is correct? So option A says A and G, adenine and guanine. No, that is not correct. Guanine pairs with cytosine. Then adenine and thymine. Adenine and thymine. Then we have cytosine and adenine. D, cytosine and thymine. From what we have here, we can see that the only option that is correct is adenine pairs with thymine. That is option B represented here. So that's the correct answer, option B. The next question, what is true of all enzymes? So you try to understand what is represented in the table. The table, we have A and B ticked as enzyme as sugars. We have A and C ticked as they are most effective at pH 7. Then we have C and D ticked that enzymes are not sugars. And we have B and D ticked that enzymes are not, that's the X is no, the tick is yes. Enzymes are not most effective at the pH of 7. So which of these is true, or which one is true? So the correct answer is enzymes are not sugar. One, you need to understand that enzymes are mostly proteins. So, and enzymes are not most effective at pH 7. We have some enzyme with pH 2 and other pH. So, from this table, like I said, enzymes are not sugars and they are not effective at pH 7. So, which of the options ticked no to the headings with the match have no with the headings of the table? That means no sugar and no effective at pH 7. That is option D. So you can see other options. Is either the sugar is ticked or the pH is ticked. But for option D, you see that none of these two provided correlates with the definition of enzyme or correlates with what enzyme is. So enzymes are not sugar and they are not effective at pH 7. Option D is the correct answer here. The next question, question 10. Which statement about human enzymes is correct when they are at temperature above 80 degrees C? So enzymes at a temperature subjected to a very high temperature above 80 degrees is very high. So it can, alter the structure, the 3D structure of an enzyme. And for an enzyme to work, we see that you need to have an active site, that the substrate has to bind to the active site of an enzyme, so to catalyze a reaction. So once enzyme is subjected to a very high temperature, it can denature the enzyme. It can alter the structure and even the active site. Active sites not be able to, the substrate not be able to bind to the active sites of the enzyme. That means no product will be formed, no reaction will happen. So, which statement about human enzyme is correct when they are temperature above 80 degrees C? You can want to ask yourself that are there no enzymes that still do well at high temperature? Yes, they are thermophilic enzymes, but looking at this question, it said about human enzymes, so it's specific. Option A says the enzyme molecules are denatured. B, the shape of the active site is stable. More enzyme substrate complexes form. D, more product is formed by the enzyme. So if the enzyme is altered, no product will be formed, no enzyme substrate complex formed, the shape of the active site is not stable. So the only answer that is correct is the enzyme molecules are denatured when subjected to a very high temperature. Option A is the correct answer. The next question, question 11. An experiment is set up to investigate gas exchange in aquatic plants. So this is the experiment that is set up. We see the light. This is the indicator to show color change. Then this is the aquatic plant. So the question says the hydrogen carbonate indicator solution is orange at the start. So this, no, I told you it shows color, it detects color. So this is shows orange at the start of the experiment. So after 3 hours, which color will it change to? So which color is it after 3 hours? So this will change because there's a removal of CO2 in the experiment. So this will change to a purple color after 3 hours. So from the option, we see that C is the correct answer to a purple color. The next question, question 12. Certain factors are needed for photosynthesis. For photosynthesis to be carried out by autotrophs, we have the starting material like light for energy, light from sunlight. We have starting material like carbon dioxide too is needed. So certain factors are needed for photosynthesis. If a factor is in short supply, it limits the rate of photosynthesis. So what this question is saying that if we have limited supply of the raw material, you want to make something, you have limited supply of the raw material, definitely the product too will be affected. So which of these could be limiting factor? So we need to know what are the starting materials that are involved in photosynthesis from these um options or from these that are provided here. So the starting material, like I said, we need carbon dioxide, CO2, water and light is needed. Light intensity is needed. But for oxygen is not a starting material, is a byproduct of photosynthesis. So what certain factors are needed for photosynthesis. If the factor is in short supply, it limits the rate of photosynthesis. So what are the things that can limit the rate of photosynthesis? That is carbon dioxide and light intensity, which happens to be the materials that are involved in a photosynthesis reaction. So that means option 1 and 3 is the correct answer, and that's option B. So option B is the correct answer to this question. Question 13. The hemoglobin concentration in the blood of a person is 80 gram dm cube. The accepted normal concentration is 120 gram dm cube or above. So which substance may be lacking in their diet? So the question is an application question. Say hemoglobin, which is present in the blood. So after the concentration was measured, it's in a person, it gave this this value 80 gram per dm, but it's very low. The standard, which is said here, accepted normal concentration, which like is the standard or accepted normal concentration is 120, and someone has 80, that means it's very low compared to this. So which substance may be lacking in their diet? If somebody has a low blood level, that means iron is lacking in their diet. So C, A, calcium, B, fat, C, fiber, D, iron. So if someone is anemic or have a low blood level, iron is lacking in the diet. So option B, option D is the correct answer, iron. Question 14. Which statement about physical digestion is correct? What is physical digestion? That's something that doesn't involve chemical reaction. There's no enzymes that are involved. So that means, for example, physical digestion is you're chewing, you have the food in your mouth, you chew it into smaller pieces so that it can be well digested. The enzymes can act on it and it can be properly digested. So, which statement about physical digestion is correct? A, it increases the surface area of food. it involves enzymes. C, it takes place in the mouth only. D, it produces smaller molecules. So which of these statements is correct? So like I said, physical digestion involves you chewing to break large molecules into smaller molecules and to provide of the same into to smaller pieces. So just it's the same molecule, but you are just trying to break it into smaller pieces, like just to widen the surface area for proper digestion. So the correct answer here is it increases the surface area of food. So that's the correct answer. Physical digestion, chewing helps to break large into smaller pieces so that the surface area can be widened, increased for the reaction to be taking place properly. So question 15, which statement describes the effect of atmospheric humidity of the rate of transpiration? Transpiration in happens in leaves. There's these small holes, tiny holes that are present in leaves where water can easily evaporate, or there's loss of water vapor. Let me say it like that. That happens during dry season. So just to conserve water and for the plant to flourish. So A, in high humidity, the transpiration rate is high because there is slow diffusion of water vapor through stomata. The tiny pores in leaves is known as the stomata. So that's where water vapor is being lost. So B, in high humidity, the transpiration rate is low because there is rapid diffusion of water vapor through stomata. So for transpiration to occur, it doesn't happen in high humidity. That's when the humidity is low during dry weather. So in low humidity, the transpiration rate is high because there is rapid diffusion of water vapor through stomata. Then D, in low humidity, the transpiration rate is low because there is low diffusion of water vapor through stomata. So it happens during low humidity, and transpiration rate is usually high during low humidity because there's diffusion of water vapor through the tiny pores in the leaves known as stomata. So option C is the correct answer. In low humidity, transpiration rate is high because there is rapid diffusion of water vapor through stomata. Option C is the correct answer. The next question, question 16. Sucrose and amino acid move around a plant from sources to sinks. Which row shows the sources and sink? So here we have this table here. So we're told that sucrose and amino acid, they move from plants, from where they are produced to where they are stored. So from these provided here, we have the root cortex cells. These also it stores food, and it also transports food. For xylem vessels only transport water. It's phloem that transports food. So the palisade mesophyll cells present in the leaf, they produce food. That means they are source. So from the table here, so which row shows the sources and sink, that's produce and also stores? So like I said, roots stores and also produce, while mesophyll cells, they only produce, they don't store. But xylem don't store and they don't produce. So from the table here, we can see that option A is the correct answer here. Roots, cortex cells, they source and sink, they transport food, nutrients, and they also store. But xylem only transports water, so it doesn't apply here. Then mesophyll cell, they produce food, is present in leaves, they produce food. So option A is the right answer. Question 17. Which statement describe how the structures in the circulatory system function? Circulatory system, it has to do with blood flow. So we see which of these statements describe how the structure in the circulatory system function. So here from one, a muscular pump to push blood vessel into valves, then valves to ensure one-way blood flow, then veins to take blood away from the heart, vessels to return blood to the heart. So which statements is the flow is correct? Which one is correct? Definitely a muscular pump to push the blood into vessels, then valves to ensure that there's a one-way blood flow, then the vessel to return blood back to the heart. So from this statement, only 1, 2, 4, they are correct here. So the options here, option B is the correct answer. 1, 2, and 4 is the correct answer, option B. So the diagram shows a section through the heart. This is what the section of the heart looks like, or the heart looks like. So which part is the septum? The septum is, you need to understand what septum is the space in between the heart that separates the right part of the heart from the left side of the heart. So from this, having known what septum is, so is a gap that separates the left side from of the heart and the right side of the heart. So which of these separates the left side and the right side of the heart? So we see that is C from here. This is the gap. Separate this side from this other part of the heart. So that means C is septum. All right. Question 19. The cholera bacterium toxin causes dehydration and loss of salt from the blood in humans. So the cholera bacterium toxin causes cholera, and it presents symptoms like watery stool, which causes dehydration and loss of water from the blood in human. So what happens is that the chloride ions are secreted into the small intestine, and it causes water to move into the small intestine, and this causes watery stool. So from these options that are provided here, option B is the correct answer. Chloride ions are secreted into the small intestine, and this will cause water to move into the small intestine by osmosis, and thus causing dehydration, causing watery stool, which can lead to dehydration and loss of salt in the body. So option B is the correct answer. Question 20. During inspiration, the process listed takes place. Yes, during inspiration, like air rushing into the lungs. You are taking air into the lungs. So what processes takes place? Which one is in the right? These are the processes that takes place, but we need to list them in the correct order. So we have one, you are trying to take in air. That means the diaphragm moves down, rib moves upward and outward. Okay, so the first one is that the muscle contracts. There's contraction. Then the diaphragm moves down, ribs moves upward and outward. And the next thing is the volume of the thorax increases. And once volume of thorax increases, the pressure in the thorax will definitely decrease and air rushes into the lungs. So that's like the flow of how inspiration takes place. As you try to suck in air, there's contraction, the ribs, you see that the ribs moves upward, and the volume of thorax increases. Once the volume increases, pressure decreases and air rushes into the lungs. So from the option provided, let's see, we have, before we look at the option, that means we have ST, P, R, Q. So that's the order which inspiration takes place. All right, let's see the option provided. Options provided. Option A, what is the correct sequence of this process? We said STPRQ. So from this option provided, option B is the correct answer. STPRQ. So option B. The next question, in the chemical equation of anaerobic respiration, that's respiration without the presence of oxygen in yeast. So the numbers that have been replaced by the letters W, X, Y, Z. So let's try to write out the correct equation. So that's the first one, glucose, which is 612 H 66H12O6 during yeast um, fermentation. We have ethanol, which is um, C C2H5OH and carbon dioxide. So to balance this equation, we have this and this. So this is what this equation looks like during anaerobic respiration in yeast. We have glucose to give ethanol and CO2, carbon dioxide. So this is what this equation looks like. So which number is Z? That means Z with the one that has H here. So which number is Z? We have C2H5. So from this equation, we can see that the one that is represented as Z here is 5. That means 5 is represented as Z here. Option B is the correct answer. Question 22. A student measured their oxygen consumption before, during, and after exercise. This is what the chart looks like. We can see at rest, that's before exercise, during exercise, and after exercise. So the question, let's look at the question. At which time is the oxygen debt being removed? Oxygen debt is being removed, mostly removed after exercise. That's the post exercise. So from the chart, let's see. That's after exercise. So we have after exercise falls between 15 and 20 before it finally goes to rest. So the options provided, let's see. From the option provided, that's 15 to 20. Option C is the correct answer. Question 23. Shows which row shows where glucose will be found in the body of a healthy human after eating a meal? So after consuming a meal, especially meal carbohydrates is broken down to glucose, and the glucose is converted to energy, is being used up by the body. It has to be used up, absorbed by the body, but that's how it is in healthy woman. But in human that probably is diabetic, suffering from one disease or the other, you can see the presence, especially a diabetic patient. So you can see the presence of glucose in the urine. That means the person is not healthy. The person needs to be checked for diabetes. So, but which of these rows shows where glucose is found in a healthy woman? Like I said, glucose is not supposed to be found in the urine. It can be found in the blood, which is the renal artery, renal vein, and then glomerulus, the nephron. This one filters, and this one makes the glucose to be absorbed by the blood. But this ureter is involved in urine, passing out of urine. So glucose should not be found in this place for a healthy woman. So let's see. It can be found in all of these except the ureter. That's option C is the correct. Yes, yes, yes. Only the ureter. There is no. Option C is the correct answer. Question 24. The events listed involve neurotransmitter molecules at the synapse. So neurotransmitter molecules have to transmit chemical uh, messengers that send signals to the brain. So these events here, what is the sequence of the events that happens when an impulse arrives at the signal? So what is the correct order? That's what we have to do here. So here we have they are released from vesicle, and once they are released, it enters into the space, the gap, that's the synaptic gap. And once it enters the neurotransmitter molecules, it diffuses and then it binds to the receptor protein for it to transmit the signal. So the correct answer is 4321. So the options that has 4321 is option D. Option D is the correct answer here. So question 25, what occurs during accommodation to focus on distant objects? If you want to focus on an object that is distant, so what happens in the eye? So the first thing is that the muscle relaxes and the lens is thin while the ligament tightens. So option B is the correct answer here. Relaxation of the muscle, then lens shifting and sensory ligament tight. Option B. 26. What is the correct statement about auxin in shoot? Auxin is an hormone that is present in plants, and what this auxin does is that a plant that is in a shaded area, it tries to move it towards light. So it elongates the stem and the stem, sorry, it elongates the stem so that this plant will be able to get light for photosynthesis. So which is correct? It is made only on the shaded side of the shoot. It is more concentrated on the side of the shoot that received the most light. C, it moves through the shoot by osmosis. D, it stimulates cell elongation. So this is what happens. It moves the stem towards light, stimulating cell elongation. The correct answer here is D. Question 27. What is a correct statement about antibiotics? Antibiotics are known to use for bacterial infection. So which of these is correct? A bacteria may become resistant to antibiotic as a result of artificial selection. B, bacteria may become resistant to antibiotics as a result of natural selection. C, viruses may become resistant to antibiotics as a result of artificial selection. D, viruses may become resistant to antibiotics as a result of natural selection. Viruses are not used to treat, antibiotics are not used to treat viral diseases. So it's only antiviral drugs. So we ignore options C and D. So we are left with A and B. So the correct answer here is bacteria may become resistant to antibiotics as a result of natural selection. This makes offspring trend to inherit the resistant gene. When resistance means the bacteria is already adapted to not can normally kill the bacteria. So that means the antibiotics is no longer killing the bacteria. The bacteria can survive the antibiotics. That's the meaning of being resistant. So, and these traits can be passed from, to the offspring. The same resistance traits can be passed. So that's what this natural selection means. So option B is the correct answer. Bacteria may become resistant to antibiotics as a result of natural selection. Option B. So 28, potatoes are stem tubers, right? A tuber can be placed in the ground to grow into another plant. Once you plant potato, it definitely grows into another plant, which can grow many more tubers. So that is what is represented here. Potato, a tuber of potato is planted, and this is what we have after 4 months. So the question is, how many chromosomes will there be in the cells of the stem, the leaf, and the pollen? So this is quite easy. The stem and the chromosome in the cells of the stem and leaf are all usually the same number, while the pollen is haploid, like half of half of the number of chromosomes in the stem and leaf. So here, let's see, option A is the correct answer here. We see the stem and leaf, they have 24, and pollen is the half of 24 is 12. So that's why option A is the correct answer. The next question, which rule about asexual reproduction is correct? For we have asexual reproduction and sexual reproduction, but for asexual reproduction, only one parent is involved. The offspring are identical. So yeah, from this table here, let's see the one that has one number of parents. We see one number of parents, offspring identical to parents, which is correct, and offspring identical to each other, which is very correct too. So the only option that is correct is B. So we have asexual reproduction involves one number of parents, offspring they are identical, and they are identical to parents, and they are also identical to each other. Option B is the correct answer. The last question here, question 30. The statement describe how a protein is being made. How is protein made? So from protein is made through transcription and translation. What does that mean? That means from the genetic material, that's DNA, is transcribed to RNA, and RNA is translated to protein. So that's how it's being made. So let's see, these are the processes that are involved. So we have to deduce the correct sequence. So DNA transfer, that's the gene. The gene coding for protein is copied in the nucleus, right? So then what happens next? The messenger RNA molecules will carry a protein of this gene to the cytoplasm. Then the messenger RNA, because ribosome is involved in protein synthesis, once the messenger RNA carry a copy of the gene to the cytoplasm, then the messenger RNA will pass through a ribosome for protein to be synthesized. And we see the final one, ribosome assemble amino acid. So we have smaller units of protein is amino acid is assembling, and then protein is formed. So let's look at that order. We have 3, 2, 1, and 4. So which options has the sequence, order of sequence? We have 3, 2, 1, and 4. That is option D. So the correct answer to this question is 3, 2, 1, and 4, option D. And here we have come to the end of this class, of today's class. I hope you found it interesting. Make sure you subscribe, you like, and share to your friends. And don't forget,
Hi, I'm sure you enjoyed the content you just watched. To see more episodes as that, preparing you for your oncoming exams, smash the subscribe button on this channel right now and visit the playlist that we've made for you, covering over 50 type of different exams, including JAM, WAEC, Kakao,